It began on a Tuesday morning in a control room lit only by monitors when the first anomaly arrived. Not a brightening, not a trajectory shift, not even a jet event. It was a rotation, silent, controlled, and so precise that every NASA operator froze. And if you're watching this and you enjoy diving into the deepest, strangest corners of the cosmos, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes. Also, tell us where you're watching from and what time you started this video, because tonight time itself seems to be part of the story. 3I Atlas, an object supposedly made of ice and dust, began turning its spin axis directly toward Earth. Not drifting, not precessing, turning, like a camera. At first, the team thought it was coincidence, statistical noise, a passing alignment, but the axis locked on and stayed locked, tracking Earth through rotation, orbit, even through the wobble induced by solar wind. Every model broke at once. A comet cannot aim, a rock cannot track, an interstellar fragment cannot behave like it is, watching something. And yet, as Earth moved, the axis followed. The first fear settled in when NASA's Deep Array radar detected something impossible. Doppler echoes returning from the direction of 3I Atlas, but at the wrong timing intervals, as if something between Earth and the object was scanning Earth's atmosphere, then bouncing the signal back with a signature that didn't belong to rock or ice. Not reflection, analysis. Operators tried to dismiss it until the next event shattered all doubt. A narrow infrared beam, thin as a needle, fired from 3I Atlas and sliced directly into Earth's upper atmosphere. It didn't heat the air, it didn't ionize it. Instead, it measured it, bouncing off the thermosphere with a return signature so detailed the sensors registered variations in atmospheric composition down to parts per billion. It was as if the object were performing a chemical scan of Earth's air. And the strangest part? The beam's pulse interval matched the length of a single Earth day, not its rotation, our rotation, as if timing itself to the rhythm of the planet. That was the first moment NASA went silent. Public statements stopped, briefings were delayed, and internally the term observer state appeared for the first time, but the data kept coming. The next discovery was worse. Spectrographic analysis showed that 3I Atlas wasn't just emitting strange light, it was bending the light passing near it, not lensing like gravity, but twisting the spectrum in ways that suggested internal structure. Not a loose cloud of ice, but something dense, layered, engineered. Then something began leaking from the object. Not gas, not dust. Droplets. Tiny particles of nickel ions drifting into space from the object's sunward face, in a pattern too precise to be a natural jet. The ions travelled for days before, entering Earth's magnetic field, where they deposited in a thin band across the upper atmosphere. NASA ran the numbers. Nickel ions of that purity do not come from comets. They come from machined alloys. Whatever this thing was shedding wasn't natural, but nothing compared to the moment Earth's magnetosphere rippled. At 02:14 UTC, satellites recorded an inertial drift between the L1 and L2 equilibrium points, something that has never happened before in solar system history. An invisible force passed through the region, bending field lines, tugging at spacecraft, distorting electron flows. The timing matched exactly with a surge in the IR beam from 3I Atlas. Something was interacting with space itself, not pushing, not pulling, but mapping. Mapping Earth's gravitational boundary, mapping the solar wind flow, mapping everything. NASA tried to recalibrate, but the recalibration failed. The anomaly was real. Then came the comet event. Instead of thinning as the object moved farther from the Sun, the comet of 3I Atlas thickened, becoming denser, smoother, almost fluid-like. Thermal readings dropped instead of rising, as if the material was absorbing energy instead of emitting it. The coma wasn't evaporating, it was activating, a veil, a shroud, a shield. And behind that shroud, brightness fluctuations revealed something with edges, straight lines, hard geometry, a shape buried under ice, or pretending to be ice, slowly becoming visible. NASA tried to mask the data, but amateur astronomers caught the same thing, a flicker of flat planes inside the coma, rotating in sync with the IR pulses. It looked nothing like a comet, but everything like a structure. The next event should have been impossible. For exactly 6 minutes, stars behind 3I Atlas stopped moving. Not literally, Their light kept coming, but the parallax shift expected from Earth's rotation simply vanished, as if something around the object was holding the starfield still, freezing the visual background like a lens locking into place. Satellites recorded it. Ground-based arrays confirmed it. The effect was real. It was observing Earth, using the stars as a reference grid. Then came the atmospheric hit. Out of nowhere, trace amounts of hydrogen cyanide appeared in the thermosphere, matching the signature of the IR beam. Not enough to threaten life, not enough to trigger alarms, but chemically exact. Too exact. The sample was pure, undiluted, laboratory grade. HCN is used in one thing: spectroscopic analysis of biomolecules. The object wasn't poisoning Earth, it was testing Earth, and every test returned the same reaction. A new adjustment in the beam, a new orientation of the axis, a new pulse into the darkness. Until the quiet moment arrived, a moment no one expected. 3i Atlas stopped spinning, not slowed, stopped. A perfect halt. Angular momentum cancelled by some force no scientist could explain. Telescopes caught the sight of the object holding itself perfectly still, like a machine entering standby mode. Then, slowly, the coma parted, and something inside looked directly at Earth. Not metaphorically, not poetically. The internal brightness signature shifted to match Earth's position, as if a sensor had opened, as if an aperture had aligned, as if whatever was inside had turned its gaze toward us. At that exact moment, NASA's near-Earth monitoring satellites recorded a narrow null zone, a region of complete signal blackout, sweeping across the atmosphere in sync with the object's orientation, a moving blind spot, a scanning cone. Every time it passed over a satellite, the satellite lost connection for a fraction of a second, then came back online with clock drift and corrupted telemetry. It wasn't attacking them, it was collecting data from them. The last straw came at 03:18 AM. A faint harmonic vibration, barely perceptible, buried in noise, echoed across NOAA, NASA, ESA, JAXA, and India's deep arrays simultaneously. The signature matched one thing only: a directed signal fired into Earth's atmosphere. Not a beam, not a burst, a message. No one could decode it. But the repetition pattern matched Earth's own magnetic field oscillations, as if the message were tuned for the planet itself. Not its satellites, not its people, but Earth. And then, for the first time since its arrival, 3i Atlas dimmed. The coma sealed shut. The axis drifted away from Earth. The IR beam ceased. It had finished something. A task. A scan. A measurement. NASA reviewed the telemetry again and again, but the conclusion was the same. 3i Atlas hadn't just observed Earth. It had studied Earth. And now, having collected whatever it came for, it was waiting. Waiting in silence. Waiting with purpose. Waiting the way a machine waits after completing its instructions, as if expecting a response, or something else to arrive. The silence didn't comfort anyone. It felt staged, intentional. Like whatever 3i Atlas had been doing to Earth wasn't over. It was simply pausing, waiting for the next phase to begin. And the first clue came from a place no one expected: the Moon. NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter reported a strange echo returning from Mare Serenitatis, a faint, pulsing reflection that matched the frequency of the beam 3i Atlas had fired into Earth's atmosphere. An echo shouldn't return from the lunar surface at all, not with that signature. It meant the beam hitting Earth's air had also been hitting something else, something on or beneath the Moon. And the pulse wasn't random. It repeated at perfect intervals, like a reply. NASA ran the numbers. The beam from 3i Atlas had ricocheted across Earth's magnetic field, touched the upper atmosphere, then bounced outward toward the Moon in a directed, coherent arc. Not scattering, not diffusion, guided reflection. Someone, or something, was mapping the Earth-Moon system. That was the moment the tone inside NASA changed from anomalous phenomenon to something much darker: surveillance behaviour. Still, they kept it quiet. The world didn't know that 3i Atlas had turned its axis toward the Moon next, not just observing Earth anymore, but calculating orbital mass, tracing crater rims, scanning mineral signatures as if it needed a 3D map of the lunar interior. But then something else happened. The starfield behind 3I Atlas twisted. A distortion spread outward from the object, slow at first, then tightening like a lens coming into focus. Stars bent around it in arcs too smooth to be natural. It wasn't gravity that caused it. Gravity bends light equally from all directions. This distortion bent it directionally. A controlled sweep, passing across constellations like a scanning array searching for something. Every telescope caught it, and every telescope saw the same impossible thing. Whenever the distorted sweep passed over a star, the star's colour shifted. Not permanently, not physically, just for a moment. A spectral drag that matched the signature of extremely advanced materials interacting with light. The distortion wasn't just looking outward, it was analysing. And then came the most unsettling discovery. The sweep slowed whenever it approached a star with known exoplanets, as if checking them, comparing them, cross-referencing something it had stored. Earth wasn't the only world 3I Atlas was interested in, but Earth was the one it was closest to. Earth was the one it scanned first. Earth was the one it aligned its axis toward. And now Earth was the one it was returning to. Because after the star sweep finished, something happened that hit every alarm NASA had. 3I Atlas began rotating again, but not randomly, not drifting, not responding to solar pressure. It was pointing its axis back toward Earth. Every model showed the same terrifying result. This wasn't realignment, it was targeting. The spin axis didn't aim for the equator this time. It didn't aim for the atmosphere. It aimed for a single point on the night side of the planet. A point that moved as Earth rotated. A point that no human telescope had any reason to look at. NASA zoomed in. Coordinates locked. Tracking stabilized. And there, sitting in the dark between the peaks of South America and the void of the Pacific, drifting alone without transmitters or operational modules, was an old satellite humanity had forgotten about decades ago. Explorer 14. A relic. A dead piece of metal. A useless museum artifact adrift in Earth orbit. 3I Atlas was staring at it. Not Earth, not a continent, not the atmosphere. A derelict satellite. The implications hit every analyst at once. 3I Atlas wasn't scanning Earth anymore. It was scanning our technology, focusing on metal alloys, antenna signatures, telemetry scars, as if trying to read how we communicate, what we build, how we observe the sky. And when Explorer 14 drifted behind the Terminator line, moving into darkness, something even more disturbing happened. 3I Atlas's beam followed it. A narrow ribbon of invisible infrared light arced across space and hit the dead satellite with surgical precision. A dead satellite. No power, no signal, no function. Yet the beam persisted, scanning its skin, its plates, its fractured electronics, its silent transmitter like a surgeon examining a fossil. NASA tracked the beam intensity. It wasn't random. The pulse rate increased whenever it crossed the satellite's old communication antenna. Not Earth, not the magnetosphere, its transmitter. It was studying our communication hardware, learning how we send signals, how we receive signals, what frequency bands we use. And then the event that terrified everyone happened. For exactly 1 second. 1 single second. Explorer 14 powered on. A burst of radio static exploded across multiple frequency bands, short-lived but unmistakable. A satellite that had been dead for decades blinked. Not self-powered, not repaired, triggered. The only possible energy source was the beam from 3I Atlas. It woke the satellite, and it didn't stop there. After Explorer 14 flickered back into silence, 3I Atlas adjusted its axis again. Slower this time, deliberate, careful. It aimed at another object, another satellite, then another, then another. One by one, it scanned Earth's technological skeleton. Weather satellites, observation drones, telecom arrays, relays, debris, relics, anything that once carried a signal. The infrared beam tapped each one like fingertips on a keyboard, measuring, reading, remembering. And then, for the first time since it entered the inner solar system, 3I Atlas emitted a pattern. Not random noise, not a thermal flicker. A 3-pulse sequence in the same frequency Explorer 14 once used to communicate. 3 pulses. A pause. 3 more pulses. echoing the dead satellite's ancient language. Earth did not answer. We didn't know how. We didn't know if we should. And 3i Atlas went quiet again. Not dormant, not gone. Just quiet. Waiting. Not scanning Earth now, not scanning satellites, not scanning space. Waiting for something, or someone. The waiting didn't make sense. Not to NASA, not to ESA, not to any observatory staring helplessly at a silent object that had just demonstrated the ability to resurrect dead satellites and trace Earth's orbital infrastructure with surgical precision. And then, without warning, the quiet broke. A faint ripple, so small it barely nudged the magnetosphere, rolled across Earth like a soft gravitational breeze. Most instruments ignored it. A few flagged it as noise, but one device didn't. The aging Lagios 3, geodetic satellite designed to measure Earth's shape with millimeter accuracy. Lagios 3 detected a subtle shift, not in Earth's gravity, not in solar pressure, but in space-time alignment above the South Pacific. A distortion, a ripple that wasn't natural, and it originated from 3i Atlas. No visible light, no IR beam, just a silent push. A space curvature adjustment so precise that only a laser reflector on a 40-year-old satellite caught it. NASA quickly triangulated the ripple. It pointed toward a region high above Earth where only one object drifted. A retired military satellite with encrypted components still classified. 3i Atlas had found it. The object rotated again, slow, deliberate, careful, lining its axis directly with the classified satellite. The infrared beam didn't fire this time. Instead, something else happened. The beam folded. It collapsed inward, like a lens changing focus, until the light began emitting in a pattern no telescope had ever recorded. A spiraling helix, thin as wire tightening into a corkscrew of energy. The beam wasn't scanning now. It was reading. Reading the encrypted hardware. Reading its metals. Reading its scars. Reading its transmission architecture like a surgeon examining a damaged organ. Then the impossible. The dead military satellite pinged Earth. A single encrypted ping. A ping in a format abandoned 2 decades ago, and perfectly recreated by 3i Atlas. The satellite hadn't powered up. Its solar arrays were dead. Its circuits were frozen. Its battery was dust. And yet it spoke. Not on its own. Through something forcing it to speak. Through 3i Atlas. The message was unreadable, encrypted, malformed, a ghost transmission. But the signature didn't match the satellite. It matched the beam. 3i Atlas had mimicked the satellite's identity. NASA shut down half its public telemetry within minutes. The Pentagon locked the remaining uplinks, and still the object didn't stop. It drifted away from the military satellite and began examining a region of space where Earth had nothing. No satellites, no debris, no missions. An empty corridor. Yet the object turned toward it with the focus of something that knew exactly what it was looking for. And Earth's sensors picked up the faintest whisper. A frequency. Low. Deep. Distant. Not moving. Not orbiting. Sitting. Waiting. A frequency that didn't come from Earth. Didn't come from 3i Atlas. Didn't come from the satellites it scanned. Something else. Something dormant. Something old. 3i Atlas oriented itself toward that frequency in an instant, snapping into alignment with the precision of a machine obeying a recall signal. For the first time, its coma began to change. Not thicken, not brighten, but part. The veil of dust and ice that had concealed its interior began peeling away like a curtain in a dark theatre, revealing slivers of structure beneath. Flat plates catching sunlight, angled surfaces, smooth metallic arcs reflecting in microbursts, a geometry too perfect to be natural. Every rotation shed more of the disguise, every degree exposed more of the truth. 3i Atlas wasn't revealing itself. It was preparing itself, preparing for something in that empty patch of sky, something only it could see. NASA ran every possible scenario. Alien weak signal beacon, solar anomaly, background cosmic drift. Nothing matched. The frequency was too sharp, too rhythmic, too engineered. And then the strangest event yet unfolded. A cluster of CubeSats launched years ago, small, inactive, forgotten, began to drift out of their decayed orbits, not because of drag, not because of solar wind, but because their tiny metallic bodies were being pulled by a gentle but deliberate force, a tug, a call. The CubeSats floated toward the same empty corridor 3i Atlas was facing, not fast, not chaotically, as if someone were gathering lost tools, dust, debris, scraps of Earth-made metal, all drifting toward the same place. Every movement matched the strange frequency. Every movement matched 3i Atlas's orientation. Something was assembling a cluster of our machines, old, dead, forgotten, into one point. A point 3i Atlas had locked onto like a magnet. For a brief moment, NASA had one window of clarity. A radar pulse bounced off something in the emptiness. Not debris, not particles. A surface. Smooth, flat, reflective, motionless. And then the pulse died. The region went dark again. Sensors failed. Instruments flatlined. But in that moment, the truth had already slipped out. 3i Atlas wasn't just observing Earth. It was observing what Earth had left behind. The crippled satellites, the dead probes, the forgotten machines, the trash orbiting our planet. It wasn't scanning us. It was scanning our technology. Every piece, every frequency, every signature. Because it wasn't preparing to attack us, or communicate with us, or flee from us. It was preparing to interface with something else. Something dormant. Something old, something we accidentally left sleeping in the sky without knowing it existed, and now 3i Atlas had found it. Worse, it had begun waking it up. The waking didn't happen all at once. It came in shivers, tiny ripples of space-time flickering outward from that empty corridor, as if something enormous were trying to turn itself back on, but hadn't done so in a very, very long time. The CubeSats drifting toward the point began to rotate, each one turning its dead antenna toward the same invisible center. Their solar panels, dark, useless, powerless, jerked in short mechanical spasms like muscles firing after years of paralysis. 3i Atlas watched, its axis locked, its coma peeled further away. More of its interior shimmered with flat metallic contours. Then another ripple struck, Earth's instruments, stronger this time. A gravitational nudge tugged lightly at the ISS. A faint electromagnetic tremor rolled through the Van Allen belts. A distortion flashed across the GOES weather satellites, blurring the Pacific like a smear of digital paint. Everything pointed to one location, the void directly ahead of 3i Atlas. NASA increased resolution. ESA switched power from deep space tracking to near-Earth scanning. Everyone tried to see what was hiding in that emptiness. This time something answered. A thin streak of reflected light, barely the width of a pixel, cut across 3 frames of the Hubble Wide Field Relay. Not a star, not a meteor. A line, straight, rigid, engineered. It lasted 1/6 of a second and vanished. But it was enough. Something was there. And 3i Atlas reacted instantly. Its internal glow pulsed, once, twice, then stabilized into a slow, rhythmic heartbeat. The coma dissolved almost entirely, revealing the unmistakable surface beneath. Not rock, not dust. Armor, layered, segmented, built. The world had called it a comet. But the machine underneath had stopped pretending. A cold realization swept through the NASA control room. 3i Atlas wasn't approaching Earth. It was approaching an object we had never known we left behind. Something big, something old, something silent. And the CubeSats drifting toward it, tiny broken machines, were behaving like offerings laid at the feet of something awakening. Then the third ripple hit. This one wasn't gravitational. It was electromagnetic, broadband, low-frequency, resonant. It hummed across the ionosphere like the thrum of a giant engine warming from absolute zero. Air traffic radars flickered. Submarine communications glitched. Marine navigation drifted by several degrees. But one device heard it perfectly. A Cold War relic. An abandoned US listening platform in high Earth orbit. Never decommissioned, never retrieved. Its mission forgotten. Its receiver, dead for 30 years, lit up with a single decoded transmission. One word. Not English, not Russian, not any Earth language, but patterned, deliberate, recognizable. A handshake. The object in the void was sending out an activation call, and 3i Atlas pulsed back. in perfect synchronization. The CubeSats vibrated as their metallic frames resonated to the same frequency. Even debris, empty booster shells, fractured antenna pieces, shredded panels, began to drift toward the invisible structure as if magnetized. Then a shape finally flickered into view. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. A dark plane the size of a football field briefly caught sunlight, then another, and another, 3 edges forming a corner, a massive triangular silhouette hanging in the emptiness like the shadow of a ship emerging from deep fog. It wasn't approaching Earth, it was waiting to be assembled. And 3i Atlas was delivering the pieces. NASA ran pattern recognition. Supercomputers compared the geometry to every known human craft. There was no match, not to rockets, not to satellites, not to telescopes, not to stealth platforms. What flickered in the void wasn't built by us, but the cold horror came from what happened next. The structure's shape shifted, not by moving its parts, but by absorbing the drifting CubeSats. Each one touched the invisible surface and simply vanished. No explosion, no collision, no visible interaction. They slipped inside, disappearing like raindrops melting into black water. Then a white-hot spike erupted from the structure, just for a fraction of a second. A flash of energy so intense it saturated every sensor and blinded the Hubble for 3 full frames. When the light dissolved, the structure was a little less dim, a little more defined, its edges sharper, its interior glowing faintly with awakening power. 3i Atlas rotated in orbit, exposing the full length of its armoured hull for the first time. A long, needle-like body built from panels so smooth they reflected sunlight like a mirror. The object was no comet. It was a returning module, a courier, a probe, a key, and the dark structure ahead was its lock. Earth wasn't witnessing an arrival, we were witnessing a reunion. The next moment confirmed it beyond any doubt. As the last CubeSat dissolved into the structure's hull, the frequency shifted into a new pattern. Stronger, faster, urgent, a broadcast. And 3i Atlas responded by moving closer. No drift, no wobble, no push from the solar wind. Controlled, guided, docking. The moment it touched the invisible surface, a shockwave rippled through the magnetic field. So powerful that auroras flickered across the southern hemisphere months early. Something enormous had just powered on, but what terrified NASA wasn't the activation. It was the fact that whatever was waking because 3i Atlas called it. The activation didn't end with the shockwave. It was only the beginning. As the magnetic field reeled from the impact, a deep resonant hum spread outward from the invisible structure, low enough to vibrate in the chest, faint enough to hide beneath radio static. But every instrument felt it. Seismographs twitched. Undersea communication buoys jittered. Even pacemakers in hospitals registered a microsecond disturbance. Something massive had come online. 3i Atlas clung to the structure like a seed locking into soil. Its armoured hull glimmered as rows of internal plates slid into alignment, not repairing, not activating, but interfacing. The structure responded. Its surface, still half invisible, half phased, began to materialize in molten sweeps of light, like paint spreading across glass. Where there had been darkness, now there were edges. Where there had been emptiness, now there were seams, ridges, conduits. A geometry too complex to be human, too ancient, too deliberate. NASA watched the shape take form frame by frame, trembling at each revelation. But the strangest revelation came when the structure's glow stabilized. It wasn't symmetrical, it wasn't aerodynamic, it wasn't a vessel meant to travel through space. It was a platform, a station, a cold, dormant outpost that had been waiting in Earth's orbital graveyard. Not by accident, not by orbital drift, but by placement. The platform had been put here, a long time ago, long before 3i Atlas arrived, long before humanity looked up. The unspoken question hung over every console. Had it been here before humans even existed? The hum intensified. A sweeping pulse flashed across the platform's surface, and in its wake the invisible metal fully materialized. Sunlight struck it and refracted into an iridescent arc that painted the surrounding space with colors not found on any spectrum chart. The platform was absorbing light and re-emitting it in engineered wavelengths. Not camouflage, not communication, calibration. 3i Atlas responded, extending a long, spined protrusion toward the platform's core. Sensors registered a surge of internal current, a jolt, a spark, a handshake. And then it happened. A shock of data screamed through Earth's satellite network. Not a signal, not noise, a command. For one horrifying moment, dozens of inactive satellites flickered on. Old dead hardware, pieces of metal that hadn't spoken to Earth in decades, lit up with brief frantic pulses. Telemetry from GOES 4, a ping from Vanguard 3, a distorted packet from NOAA 12. Even debris with no electronics at all emitted a faint electromagnetic twitch. The structure was waking Earth's trash, not to use it, but to read it. Every satellite humanity had lost was being interrogated simultaneously. Every scrap of metal was being scanned for its technological fingerprint. Every obsolete circuit was treated like a historical artifact. Humanity had left a trail of crumbs in orbit, and now something was collecting them. 3i Atlas snapped into alignment along the platform's spine, locking itself with a mechanism so complex it defied analysis. The two structures merged light signatures, one glowing, one humming. Together they began searching for something. The search became obvious when the platform fired its first pulse. It wasn't aimed at Earth. It wasn't aimed at the CubeSat debris. It wasn't aimed at the satellites. It was aimed at deep space. A narrow beam shot outward with impossible coherence, thin, sharp, and so stable, it maintained its width across millions of kilometers. The pulse hit nothing visible, but when it returned, its data packet revealed the truth. The platform wasn't searching for signals. It was searching for other platforms, a network, a constellation, a grid. If Earth had inherited one node, then the others must still be out there, dormant, drifting, waiting for a recall, and 3i Atlas had just sent that recall. The second pulse travelled in a different direction. The third went below the ecliptic. The fourth aimed into the galactic plane. NASA tracked each signal with mounting horror. These weren't broadcasts. They were coordinates, positions, locations, distances. The platform was plotting something enormous, something that stretched far beyond Earth, beyond the solar system, into regions where no human probe had ever reached. The structure wanted to know where its companions were. And as the pulses repeated, the platform's glow grew brighter, not from energy intake, but from power distribution. It wasn't just waking up. It was coming online. Solar wind curves bent around it. Particles streamed off its hull as if repelled by some invisible barrier. Magnetometers went blind. Auroras flickered across Earth despite the sun being silent. And then came the moment that sent a chill through every scientist. A final pulse rippled across the platform, slower, deeper, more resonant than the others, and 3i Atlas answered not with light, but with motion. It rotated away from Earth, not drifting, not tumbling, facing the same direction as the platform's output pulses. The platform wasn't observing Earth anymore. It wasn't studying our atmosphere anymore, or our satellites, or our technology. It was looking past us, looking outward, looking towards something approaching, and then the instruments caught it, a faint echo, not light, not radiation, a response pulse, from deep in the dark, so faint it barely registered, so distant it shouldn't have been possible. Something out there had heard the platform and it was answering. The response shouldn't have been possible, not at that distance, not with that strength, not with that timing. Yet there it was, a faint rising pulse echoing from deep space, threading through the platform signal like a voice finishing another's sentence, a harmonic match, not noise, not reflection, recognition. The platform reacted instantly. Its surface brightened in overlapping waves, blue, silver, ultraviolet, colours shifting so fast they blurred into a single electric glow. 3i Atlas tightened itself against the platform's spine, locking deeper into the assembly, its own internal components rearranging like machinery entering a higher mode. The response pulse grew stronger, not approaching, not moving closer, growing closer, as if whatever emitted it was accelerating. In the NASA control room, simulations failed one after another. The signal's origin point was too distant for any known propulsion system to close the gap in the detected time frame, unless the object wasn't travelling through space, but through something else. As the pulse strengthened, the platform shifted into a new configuration. Panels slid. Internal conduits glowed like veins carrying fire. It was preparing, and 3i Atlas was preparing with it. The coma was completely gone now, fully evaporated to reveal a sleek, elongated machine body, streaked with lines of internal luminescence. It wasn't hiding anymore. It wasn't pretending to be natural. It looked like a component, a piece of a system larger than anything humanity had imagined. The platform extended a spine-like arm toward the void where the returning signal originated. The arm unfolded again, longer, wider, sharper, until it resembled an antenna the size of a skyscraper. Not to transmit, to receive. The returning signal flared a second time, clearer now, unmistakably patterned. 3 pulses, a pause, 3 more, a longer pause, then 2, a code. 3i Atlas responded with a soft internal glow, flickering in perfect sequence. NASA watched as the platform translated the message into energetic motion. Its massive frame rotated 10 degrees, its outer panels aligned like tiles in a precise geometric grid. The antenna arm shifted into a rigid angled stance. The platform wasn't just listening, it was locking onto something. Then it happened again. Another pulse, stronger, closer, louder. Radio telescopes on Earth picked it up. The Deep Space Network recorded it simultaneously from 2 hemispheres. Not a beacon, not a distress call, a location ping, a system announcing its position to another system. And 3i Atlas answered immediately. Not with a beam, not with light, but with a micro-adjustment in its orbit. A fine correction, too fine for a gravitational object, too calculated, too deliberate. The entire assembly was steering itself into a new alignment, not toward Earth, not away from Earth, but toward something approaching the solar system at impossible speed. When NASA plotted the incoming trajectory, the room fell silent. It wasn't heading for the Sun, or Jupiter, or any orbital plane. It was heading for the platform itself. This was a rendezvous, not of Earth and an object, but of 2 components of the same ancient network meeting across cosmic distances. Earth was just in the way. As the second response pulse faded, the platform initiated a new phase. Its underside opened, not like a hatch, not like a door, but like a mouth. Panels split apart, revealing a deep, glowing cavity lined with fractal structures pulsing with rising energy. 3i Atlas extended 3 needle-like arms into the cavity, locking into channels designed precisely to its shape, as if the 2 had been built together. The entire structure trembled. Earth felt it. Magnetometers spiked. Auroras ignited over the equator, something the planet had never seen. The ionosphere rippled. Even ground-based electronics flickered as an unseen current passed overhead. Then the platform emitted a pulse of its own, one so powerful it shook the solar wind into a spiral. NASA's spectrographs captured it, a perfectly shaped waveform, clean, coherent, engineered. It wasn't calling out anymore, it was replying. The object in deep space answered instantly. This time the signal wasn't faint, it wasn't distant, it was close. Far too close for something that had been light years away. The DSN reported the impossible. The incoming object wasn't travelling through space, it was stepping across it. Intervals of silence between pulses vanished. The frequency jumped, the strength spiked. Whatever was coming was no longer far away. It was arriving. The platform folded more of its armour aside, opening itself like an ancient machine readying a port for incoming hardware. 3i Atlas braced. Its body went rigid, its internal luminescence surged, and then, for the first time, Earth saw movement inside the void. Not a ship, not a glow, not an object. A tear, a shimmer in space like fabric pulled taut and twisted, a ripple where the stars bent inward. Then something emerged. Not fully, not clearly, a silhouette. Cold, sharp, angular, too large to comprehend. The first response pulse had been a handshake. The second had been a coordinate update. This third pulse, this was arrival confirmation. The platform brightened like a star roaring to life. The silhouette in the void stretched wider, and NASA finally understood. 3i Atlas hadn't observed Earth to judge us. It had observed Earth to orient itself, to align the platform to prepare a beacon, not for invasion, not for communication, for reunion. Something ancient was coming home. The silhouette emerging from the tear in space grew sharper, not because it was moving closer, but because space was moving around it. The stars behind it stretched, smeared, twisted into thin white arcs, like the sky itself was bending around an object too massive, too dense, too engineered for the vacuum to ignore. But even through the distortion, one detail became painfully clear. It was huge, not asteroid-sized, not comet-sized, station-sized, city-sized. A monolithic construct drifting forward with the quiet inevitability of a glacier cutting through time. Electric panic spread through every control room on Earth. NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, ISRO, CNSA. Nobody dared speak the obvious truth. This wasn't the arrival of a ship. This was the return of a mother platform, a primary node responding to the beacon 3i Atlas just activated. And it wasn't stopping. The tear behind it widened, peeling open like a wound in the fabric of the cosmos. Edges of reality curled inward, shimmering with ultraviolet threads. The vacuum trembled. Earth's magnetic field groaned under a pressure it had no name for. The platform, Earth's hidden relic, flashed its lights in a cascading sequence. Not a warning, a welcome. 3i Atlas's internal glow rippled in perfect synchrony, its hull plates tightening as if bracing for impact, or recognition, or integration. And then the silhouette resolved. First came the edges, straight impossibly long bars of black alloy reflecting no light but bending space around them. Then came the ridges, spiraling patterns along its hull that seemed to rotate even while standing still. Then came the eyes. Not literal eyes, but apertures, glowing with the same colour-shifted light as the platform orbiting Earth. And in that moment, the truth hit. The structure approaching wasn't merely big. It wasn't merely ancient. It wasn't merely advanced. It was familiar, not to humanity, but to 3i Atlas. The platform beneath 3i Atlas pulsed again, a deep, echoing wave that rippled across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. The incoming construct answered with its own. 2 pulses, then 3, then 1. A conversation older than any species on Earth. A handshake protocol written in the bones of a technology no human could comprehend. The gap between the construct and the platform shrank with impossible speed. But there was no inertia, no acceleration, no deceleration. It simply appeared closer, as if distance itself had become irrelevant. Earth's instruments strained to understand what they were seeing. LIGO detected microflutters in space-time, shivers similar to black hole mergers, but rhythmic, controlled, the signature of an engine that wasn't pushing against space, but moving through its seams. And then, something broke loose. A shockwave of colour burst from the construct's hull. A cascade of blue-white filaments twisting like auroras in vacuum. They didn't disperse, they didn't scatter, they connected. Filaments reached across the void like tendrils, latching onto the platform near Earth with a precision that defied understanding. They weren't attacking, they were claiming. The 2 structures were part of the same architecture. One dormant, one returning, and 3i Atlas was the mediator, a courier between the sleeping outpost and the colossal entity emerging from the tear. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The tendrils hummed. The platform vibrated. 3i Atlas glowed from within like a star behind armour. And then, the platform began to shift, not rotate, not drift, shift. Its outer plates decompressed and folded outward like a mechanical flower, blooming under starlight. Hidden chambers slid open, massive conduits aligned with millimetre precision. This wasn't docking preparation. This was activation protocol, a procedure that hadn't run in untold ages. The arriving construct slowed, not by external forces, but by releasing its grip on space itself. The tear tightened behind it, sealing shut, the wound in the cosmos healing as if embarrassed it had ever opened. The construct hovered directly in front of the platform now, close enough to dwarf it, close enough to make Earth look like a forgotten pebble. Its tendrils latched deeper, Its lights intensified, and then a circular aperture on its underside began to glow, spiraling open like an iris. Not a weapon, not a beam, a transfer port. Every instrument agreed. Something was about to pass between the construct and the platform. Energy, matter, information, or all of them at once. 3i Atlas pulsed violently. The plates across its hull split open, revealing rows of internal components, rods, coils, capacitors that extended outward like mechanical ribs. It was positioning itself to channel something. The platform's core ignited. A deep silver light swelled at its center, bathing 3i Atlas in an impossible glow that made the object look almost alive. And that's when Earth finally detected it. A vibration. Not in space, not in the magnetosphere, in the planet itself. A pulse passing through the crust, rippling through the mantle, vibrating down into the core. Seismographs worldwide caught it. A signal that repeated with absolute precision. 3 pulses, a pause, 2 pulses, a pause. The same rhythm the returning construct used. Earth wasn't being scanned anymore. Earth was being synchronized to the platform. The construct rumbled with a subsonic groan. The platform brightened until its alloy looked like liquid starlight. 3i Atlas shuddered once violently. Then everything aligned. Construct. Platform. 3i Atlas. The pulse in Earth's crust. All in the same rhythm. And only then did NASA realize the truth. The object approaching wasn't here for the platform. It was here for something inside Earth. Something that had been silent, dormant, waiting. The realization struck like a blade. Whatever the construct wanted, whatever this ancient network was built for, it wasn't orbiting above Earth by coincidence. It was aligning with something beneath Earth, something buried, something hidden, something responding. The vibration deep in the crust strengthened, subtle enough that nobody on the surface felt it, yet powerful enough that every seismograph on the planet began printing the same repeating pattern. 3 pulses, 2 pulses, 3 pulses, the exact rhythm of the incoming construct, as if Earth itself were answering. While the world's instruments trembled, the platform above Earth shifted again. Its petals of alloy, massive sharp-edged plates the size of aircraft wings, continued to bloom outward, creating a radial formation that pointed directly toward the planet. 3i Atlas pulsed a second time, then a third. With each pulse, the vibration inside Earth grew stronger. It wasn't just listening, it was triggering something. Then came the moment that sent a chill through every scientist watching the feed. Earth's magnetic field twisted. A sudden tilt, subtle but measurable, rippled across the poles. Compass systems drifted. Auroras flashed in places where auroras shouldn't exist. For 2 full minutes, the planet's magnetic heart stuttered in rhythm with the pulses from the platform. The construct reacted immediately. A massive panel on its lower hull rotated, slow, deliberate, elegant. Lines of light flowed across it in geometric patterns, aligning into a map, a grid, a target. Not aimed at Earth, aimed into Earth. The panel refracted starlight into a needle-thin beam, not toward the atmosphere, not toward orbit, but toward a point below Earth's crust, deep in the mantle, where no human technology had ever touched. NASA's global seismic model detected it instantly. A point under the South Pacific, a region with no tectonic significance, no mineral deposits, no volcanic features, just empty mantle. But the beam locked onto that emptiness like it knew exactly what was buried there. The vibration in Earth's crust answered back, louder, deeper, so strong that underwater hydrophones in the Mariana Trench, half a world away, recorded the pulse. A harmonic tremor with a signature too artificial to be geological. Earth was resonating, not randomly, not chaotically, in communication. The construct opened another aperture, this one circular, immense, glowing with a pale blue light that seemed to fold inward rather than shine outward. The platform matched it, exposing a core chamber lined with oscillating patterns of shifting metal. 3i Atlas locked itself firmly between them, a bridge, a conduit, a translator between 2 titans. Suddenly, the interior of the platform flickered. not with light, but with images. Telemetry captured them only for milliseconds, but it was enough. A lattice of geometric symbols, star patterns that didn't match any known constellations. A map of points, nodes scattered across the Milky Way. A glowing line connecting two of those points, one of which was Earth. It wasn't projecting these symbols outward. It was reading them, interpreting, decoding, preparing. Then, as if the universe inhaled, everything froze. No hum, no pulses, no magnetic drift. Silence. A moment stretched so thin it felt like the cosmos itself was holding its breath. And then Earth answered. A single, pure vibration rolled through the crust. Not 3 pulses, not 2, 1. A deep, resonant pulse that wasn't caused by any earthquake, explosion, or tectonic shift. It was too clean, too stable. It came from something that had been dormant, waiting. The construct responded instantly. Its hull brightened. Its tendrils tightened around the platform. The aperture flared like a star erupting. 3i Atlas shuddered violently, its internal lights peaking into a blinding white ripple. Earth's vibration echoed again, stronger this time, deeper, answering whatever was calling it. Something beneath the mantle, something no human instrument had ever detected until this moment, was waking up. Not a creature, not a weapon, a receiver, a buried component of the same ancient network now assembling above Earth. The construct rotated fully into alignment. The platform matched. 3i Atlas held position, glowing like a conduit filled with lightning. Earth vibrated a third time, so powerfully the Pacific plate hummed in unison across its entire span. And then, in the deepest part of the mantle, something moved. Not enough to shift continents, not enough to break plates, just enough to produce a signature that no natural process ever could. A metallic echo. From 600 kilometers down, a resonance exactly matched to the frequency of the construct. The object in space had finally found what it came for, and Earth had finally acknowledged it. 3i Atlas pulsed one final time, a long, low, rising glow that illuminated the entire platform. The construct's aperture widened. The platform's core opened. The vibration in Earth grew louder. Something was about to connect. Space to Earth, surface to mantle, node to node. And NASA realized the horrifying truth. Earth was not the target. Earth was the host. The first connection didn't happen in space. It happened underground. Deep beneath the South Pacific, where pressure would crush any human-made machine into dust, a resonant tremor rolled outward in perfect synchronization with the pulses from the construct. Sensors across the planet, seismic, acoustic, magnetic, recorded the same impossible fingerprint, a metallic signal, echoing from the mantle, not molten, not fluid, not rock, something solid, something structured, something that did not belong inside a planet's interior. As Earth's vibration rose like a slow exhale, the construct above responded with its own. 3 pulses, 2 pulses, 1, the deepest yet, a harmonic signature between Earth and the thing inside it, as if 2 halves of a system were recognizing each other after a long separation. The platform orbiting Earth began to glow so intensely that its once dark plates now looked like molten silver. Geometric patterns raced across its surface like circuitry illuminating for the first time. 3i Atlas, acting as the bridge, arced with radiant energy, lines of brightness racing across its armored hull like veins lighting up under a scanner. And then the connection sequence escalated. The construct released a filament, a single glowing thread of energy that extended from its aperture toward the platform. It didn't drift. It didn't wave. It travelled with absolute precision, like a needle seeking the next nerve. The filament touched the platform and instantly spread across its surface, a web of light, a living lattice, a glowing network awakening segment by segment. The platform answered with a pulse straight down toward Earth, a direct beam, not destructive, not damaging, a frequency, a message, and Earth responded. The metallic object in the mantle returned the signal with a vibration so pure that it rang through the crust like a bell. The same bell tone people hear underwater when a massive submarine pings sonar, except this was millions of times deeper, millions of times stronger. A planetary heartbeat. All three components, the construct, the platform, the buried mantle object, began to fall into rhythm. A synchronized cycle that no natural system could ever produce. NASA had no models for this, no prediction, no theory, no framework. Humanity was watching a global-scale activation sequence run itself. Then the first surface phenomenon appeared. In the middle of the South Pacific, far from any tectonic boundary, the ocean bulged upward by nearly 4 meters. Not a wave, not a tsunami, a lift, as if something below the seabed were expanding. Ships felt it. Research buoys rose and fell. Sonar found nothing. But the gravitational profile above the region shifted. Lightly, subtly, like a balloon inflating beneath the skin of the planet. Meanwhile, in orbit, the platform rearranged again. Its outer plates locked into a massive ring shape, a halo pointing directly toward the construct. The interior glowed with a swirling vortex of compressed light, bending the space inside like liquid glass. The construct answered by projecting a beam not forward but sideways onto empty space. Where the beam touched, the starfield smudged, as if marking a coordinate in reality. Then another, and another. It was mapping positions, not around Earth, around whatever it expected to emerge from beneath Earth. 3i Atlas flared as though bracing itself. Its hull split open in sections, revealing long, segmented mechanisms that extended outward like antenna ribs. The object was no longer pretending to be a comet. It was fully transformed, a machine, fully online, performing a task older than humanity. The construct intensified its pulses. The platform grew brighter, Earth's mantle vibrated harder, and then the seabed near the Tonga Trench shook with a tremor unlike any seismic event recorded in Earth's history. Not destructive, not tearing rock, a resonant expansion, like a chamber opening. Deep ocean hydrophones captured the sound, a metallic groan, ancient, mechanical, alive. For a moment the entire trench glowed faintly with a blue-green shimmer, flickering across the water from beneath thousands of meters of ocean. The glow faded as quickly as it appeared, but the message was clear. Something inside Earth had awakened enough to touch the surface. Then the construct fired a beam downward, a tight, piercing column of light that passed straight through the platform, through the bridge of 3i Atlas, and into the void beneath the Pacific. It didn't slow, it didn't refract, it didn't scatter. It phased through the planet's crust like light through mist. And when it reached the buried structure, the response was violent. A shockwave burst upward from the mantle, rippling through the crust with the force of a global gong strike. Sensors worldwide recorded the same event. A pulse. Not outward. Not upward. But inward. Into the mantle itself. Something below had not only awakened, it was answering the call from above. The construct's hull brightened. The platform vibrated. 3i Atlas convulsed with a surge of energy so intense it looked like it might tear itself apart. Earth's vibration peaked. The next moment, the ocean above the trench dropped suddenly by 2 full meters, as if something immense had inhaled beneath it. Earth seemed to be breathing. The system had reached full synchronization, and every scientist watching realized this wasn't the climax. This was only the unlocking. Something beneath Earth was preparing to rise, or something above Earth was preparing to descend, or both. The unlocking changed everything: space, sea, crust, mantle. All of it began reacting to a system humanity was never meant to witness. The first true rupture came not from above, but from inside the planet. A deep, resonant crack, so low frequency it sounded like thunder inside the Earth, rolled across the Pacific basin. It didn't resemble any seismic event ever recorded. It wasn't tectonic, it wasn't volcanic, it was mechanical. The waves it produced travelled through the mantle with too much symmetry, too much order, as though they followed corridors rather than rock. And those waves weren't radiating outward like earthquakes do, they were spiralling upward. A column of harmonic vibration rising from the deepest part of the mantle straight toward the surface. Every ocean buoy in a 1,000-kilometre radius went blind. Seismographs saturated. Marine radios filled with a hollow metallic resonance. Then, without warning, the water above the Tonga Trench rose, not like a wave, not like a swell, like something beneath it was lifting the ocean itself. The rise reached 20 meters, then 30, then froze. A perfect, motionless dome of water hovering above an invisible force. The world's navy scrambled, satellites reoriented, submarines fled. But the anomaly didn't burst. It held its shape, trembling like it was waiting for the next signal. Above, the incoming construct stretched its tendrils tighter around the orbital platform. The platform itself was now spinning, slowly, majestically, its radiant panels tracing circles of light around 3i Atlas like the rings of a clock. Not random rotation, a countdown. Each revolution pulsed through Earth's magnetic field, tightening its grip, synchronizing the planet's rhythm to the machine above. Then, Earth answered with something new. A spike of energy erupted upward from the mantle, straight through the crust, straight through the ocean, straight toward the sky. It wasn't heat. It wasn't magma. It was pure resonance, an invisible column of vibrating force. The water dome shattered into a towering cyclone of steam and light, spiraling upward in a smooth, impossible helix. The beam met the downward light from the construct head-on. For the first time, space and Earth connected, not by gravity, not by atmosphere, but by signal, a two-way exchange. The construct's aperture widened, the platform's core intensified. 3i Atlas blazed like a white-hot conduit, transferring energy downward and upward simultaneously. The ocean churned. The clouds above ignited with strange shimmering arcs. The magnetosphere twisted into a luminous, unnatural spiral. It wasn't destructive, it was activation. Then the mantle object spoke. The vibration shifted into a new frequency, higher, broader, unmistakably structured. It formed a pattern NASA supercomputers recognized instantly. A repeating map, a spherical coordinate lattice, a system diagram of Earth, with a single glowing point marked deep beneath the Pacific. The same point the construct had targeted, the same point that was now answering. The ancient object buried in the mantle wasn't dormant anymore. It was broadcasting, calling upward, syncing with the platform, syncing with the construct, syncing with 3i Atlas. Earth was becoming part of the network. Every scientist in every agency realized the same thing at the same moment. This wasn't an invasion. This wasn't surveillance. This wasn't an attack. This was a reactivation of an old architecture. One piece above, one piece arriving, one piece inside the planet. And the procedure wasn't finished. The ocean collapsed downward, not in a destructive crash, but with the precision of a drained vessel. The trench deepened, stretching kilometers lower as the seafloor opened like a colossal iris. Blackness yawned beneath the waves. A void, a chamber, a hollow that had never seen sunlight in the history of Earth. Then a shape moved in the darkness. Not an organism, not a plume, not a geological structure. A surface, smooth, metallic, awakening, illuminated by pulses racing across its skin like fire crawling through a web. The mantle object, the buried node, was rising, slow, certain, responding to the construct above like a child standing at the voice of a long-lost parent. It rose so far that the water boiled around it without touching it, held at bay by a thin, shimmering field, and for a moment, just a moment, the entire object emerged into view, a massive circular construct made of alloyed plates and fractal ridges that matched the shape, design, and geometric language of the platform above. It was identical, ancient, complete, a missing segment of a three-part system, one in orbit, one arriving, one buried. They were forming something larger. The construct above emitted one final thunderous pulse, so strong it rattled satellites and distorted every radio frequency on the planet. The buried node answered by projecting a beam straight upward, a colossal column of light punching into the sky, linking mantle to platform to construct. And in that moment, the truth became undeniable. Earth itself had been selected, not randomly, not unfortunately, but intentionally, long before humans evolved, long before oceans filled, long before continents formed. Earth was a host body to a dormant component of an ancient machine, and now the machine was waking up. The moment the buried node's beam connected with the platform, something fundamental changed. Not in the sky, not in the ocean, in the planet's pulse. Earth's natural Schumann resonance, normally a gentle electromagnetic whisper, spiked into a rigid, perfectly steady tone. Every monitoring station on the planet recorded the same impossible reading. The Earth's pulse had synchronized with the machines. For the first time in history, the planet was resonating like a tuned instrument. Above, the platform rotated faster. Its radial plates folded inward, forming a vast spinning disk of luminous alloy wrapped around 3i Atlas. What had once looked like a dormant outpost now resembled a colossal gyroscope locking into a final configuration. The incoming construct reacted immediately. Its tendrils retracted, its hull expanded, unfolding layers of black metal like wings stretching after eons of sleep. Each layer was engraved with the same fractal geometry etched into the buried node below. It was aligning, positioning, preparing. The upward beam from the mantle widened. No longer a narrow column, but an enormous funnel of shimmering energy connecting Earth to orbit. Inside that funnel, lightning-like threads of pure resonance twisted and braided themselves into a coherent structure. A pathway, a channel, a bridge between worlds, and something began moving upward through it. Not quickly, not violently, slowly, deliberately, as if rising through a tunnel it perfectly remembered. The mantle object, now fully awake, fully illuminated, lifted itself through the newly opened aperture in the seafloor. The Pacific boiled around the widening hole, but no water entered. The shimmering field held it back, as if the ocean had no permission to touch what was ascending. The buried node rose through the funnel, climbing toward the platform with the quiet, terrible grace of a leviathan rising from a dream. As it ascended, its full size became clear. It was larger than the platform in orbit, much larger, a primary core, the heart of whatever this network once was, and the construct above began to descend to meet it. The two titanic shapes moved toward each other with perfect mirrored symmetry, one climbing out of a planet, one falling from the sky, each responding to the pulse of the other. Lightning arced between them, energy spiraled in luminous ropes. The funnel hummed with harmonic resonance strong enough to vibrate the crust. Every sensor on Earth overloaded, magnetometers went blind, weather satellites lost stability, GPS timing drifted by full seconds, but the world kept watching. The buried node reached the upper atmosphere. Clouds peeled away, storm systems split, the jet stream buckled, the ionosphere rippled like water. The node emerged into open sky, a monolithic disk of dark alloy, dripping with strands of glowing fractal patterns that pulsed like veins. It dwarfed the platform, it dwarfed 3i Atlas, it dwarfed anything humanity had ever placed in orbit. High above, the incoming construct opened its iris fully, a massive circular aperture glowing with spiraling blue-white energy. Directly below, the buried node opened its own. Two identical mechanisms, one facing up, one facing down, aligned across the platform like two giant gears preparing to lock. And when their centers met, the light between them intensified to the brightness of a newborn star. The atmosphere trembled, the ocean shook, pressure fronts collided in shock waves across the world. Then, the Earth stopped vibrating, everything froze, the resonance ceased, the mantle fell quiet, the ionosphere stabilized, the ocean went still. For 3 full seconds, Earth returned to silence, the kind of silence you hear before something inevitable happens. Then the joining began. The construct and the buried node extended luminous spines toward each other, weaving a glowing lattice around the orbital platform. 3i Atlas pulsed violently, its hull cracking open to reveal a brilliant core of whirling light. The platform accepted it, absorbed it, drank it in like a machine starved for fuel. And then all 3 structures synchronized. The construct's aperture, the platform's spinning ring, the buried node's rising core, 3 pulses, 2 pulses, 1, a final harmonic. The light between them fused, not like a beam, not like a flash, but like the joining of 2 halves of a colossal machine that had been separated for longer than Earth has existed. Earth's magnetic field inverted for a heartbeat. Satellites tumbled. Auroras ignited across the equator. Animals panicked. Compasses spun. Then, the moment of truth. A shockwave of gravity erupted outward, not destructive, but immense, powerful enough to distort star positions across the entire sky. And in that shockwave, every instrument detected the same chilling signature. The system had come online. Not partially, not experimentally, fully. A superstructure between Earth, orbit, and the void had awakened. Something ancient had returned. Something that had been waiting for 3i Atlas to arrive, and for Earth to respond. And the worst part, this wasn't the end of its activation sequence, it was the beginning. The activation sequence hadn't completed. It had only cleared the way for what came next. The instant the system came online, a new phenomenon spread across the sky. Subtle at first, then unmistakable. The stars shifted. Not in position, not in brightness, in frequency. Their light passed through something, an invisible field spreading outward from the construct platform node assembly like the early bloom of a cosmic flower. Spectral lines stretched, ultraviolet signatures bent. Radio reflections warped into harmonics Earth had never recorded. It was as if all of space within 1,000 kilometers of Earth was being re-indexed, rewritten into a different optical language. The world's telescopes blinked. Then they failed. Hubble, James Webb, the VLT array in Chile, the large radio dishes in Australia and China. One by one, every deep space instrument registered the same terrifying event. The universe had gone out of focus. Not because the telescopes malfunctioned, but because something near Earth was changing the fabric of the sky itself. While astronomers panicked, the situation above Earth escalated. The towering buried node, now fully free of the mantle, continued rising. Lightning curled off its fractal edges, forming swirling rings around its ascending body. The ocean filled the trench behind it without resistance, as if the planet had simply opened and closed a door. And the moment the node breached the stratosphere, the platform reacted. It spun faster, its plates compressed inward, forming a luminous torus like a plasma engine winding up. Its inner core buzzed with rising power, so bright the cameras on the ISS auto-dimmed to black. 3i Atlas, still embedded in the platform's spine, crackled with violent energy. Its armor split again, revealing even deeper machinery, coils of pulsing light, rods of metallic alloy that refracted reality around them like heat over asphalt. Every piece was sliding into place, and the approaching construct, the massive mother structure, dropped the last of its descent. Now Earth could see it clearly. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It wasn't even a building. It was an architectural fragment, a colossal piece of something far larger, like a cathedral wall torn from a temple older than the Milky Way itself. It moved without thrusters, without light, without sound. As if carried by momentum left over from an era humanity was never meant to witness, the buried node rotated to face it. The platform extended a series of glowing arms. 3i Atlas flared like a core conduit reaching critical threshold. The construct opened, not a hatch, not a port, a void, a hollow circular aperture whose edges pulsed like the throat of a colossal machine. Inside was not darkness. Inside was motion. Swirling strands of energy spiraled in slow, impossible arcs, tribal patterns written in the fabric of physics. A storm of geometry and light, unfolding like the petals of an alien iris. The buried node responded instantly. Its underside opened in the same pattern, a twin aperture awakening after its sibling. 2 eyes, 2 halves. The platform between them, the third piece, flared with blinding silver brilliance, and then the pulse began. Not the earlier heartbeat, not the harmonic handshake, a new signal, a low rising hum that vibrated in bone, metal, rock, orbit. Everything. The hum grew into a thunderous resonance so deep it shook the upper atmosphere into standing waves. Storm cells flattened, clouds disintegrated. The ionosphere lit up in neon arcs. In orbit, the constructs responded like mirrored organs awakening. The mother structure's aperture spiraled open wider. The buried node's core expanded upward. The platform aligned into a perfect channel, and humanity realized, too late, that these three pieces were forming a single mechanism. The hum intensified. Lightning arced downward and upward simultaneously. Satellites tumbling through the atmosphere froze mid-fall, as if caught in a moment of paused time. Earth wasn't just witnessing activation anymore. It was being included, folded in, locked in, engaged. As the vibration reached its peak, the mother structure suddenly dropped into full contact, its aperture aligning with the platform's torus, the two forming a seamless conduit of swirling energy. Then the buried node connected from below, the pillar of light shooting straight from the mantle core interface, rising through the node itself, through the platform, through Three-Eye Atlas, and directly into the waiting throat of the construct. A perfect vertical alignment, a cosmic spinal column, Earth to atmosphere, to orbit, to deep space architecture. A single machine, all linked, all alive. The pulse stabilized, and then every screen on Earth went white. Telemetry, satellites, radars, ground stations, observatories, every instrument saturated at once, not because of energy, but because a signal blasted through every technological system on Earth. One message, one pattern, one pulse, a map. The sky flickered as if a curtain had been pulled back, revealing that the starfield above Earth was not random. It was a lattice, a hidden grid, a network map of dormant structures scattered across the galaxy, nodes sleeping in silence, waiting for the first to awaken. And now, because of Three-Eye Atlas, Earth had been selected as the reactivation anchor. The node inside Earth answered the map. The platform amplified it. The construct broadcast it. All three roared in unison, and the universe answered. Not from one place, not from one direction, from dozens, and every pulse carried the same terrible message: connection established. The moment the system came online, every assumption humanity had ever made about the planet died, because the next signal didn't come from the construct, or the platform, or even the buried node. It came from Earth itself. A deep pulse, older than language, older than continents, rolled outward from the core, not through the crust, not through the oceans, through the magnetic field, a planetary-scale transmission, broadcast like a heartbeat into space. Every aurora on Earth ignited at once, every compass spun, every animal lifted its head, every radio band filled with crackling tones that were unmistakably patterned. Earth wasn't just responding anymore, it was calling. The construct reacted instantly, its tendrils extended in all directions, weaving themselves into a brilliant sphere of crackling energy. A containment shell, a listening device, a receiver, or something far more complex. The buried node mirrored the motion. Its lower hull opened into a vast flower of alloy plates, revealing an interior chamber that glowed with fractal patterns spiraling into infinity. Then the platform in orbit completed the triad. Its circular ring collapsed inward to a single luminous disk, aligning perfectly between the construct above and the rising node below. Three colossal machines, one alignment, one purpose. The sky above the Pacific bent, literally bent. Light warping like fabric pulled across a frame. For the first time, the full geometry of the event became clear. The construct above Earth, the platform in orbit, and the mantle node rising from below. Together they formed a single shape, a vertical megastructure, stretching from low orbit to the upper mantle, a cosmic pillar, a column of activation, a machine the size of a planet, and Earth was its spine. The next anomaly arrived in the oceans. Every tide on Earth shifted by 30 centimeters, instantly, uniformly, precisely, not by gravity, not by lunar influence, by frequency. The seas vibrated like a drumhead. The Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans rose and fell in perfect rhythm with the machine's pulsing. Tide gauges recorded the same impossible signature. This was controlled, this was deliberate, this was synced, and then the darkness came. Not night, not shadow. A massive null field, a bubble of silence, expanded from the construct, swallowing stars, ionizing radiation, everything. Inside the null field, light behaved strangely. Colours stretched, shapes smeared. Satellites vanished from view as if erased. The field expanded until it enveloped the entire activation column. from orbit to ocean to mantle. To the outside world, the region over the Pacific became a black void, a hole in reality. Inside that void, something impossible began to form. A shape. Not the construct, not the platform, not the node. Something new, something being built between them. Assembled from energy, not matter, from resonance, not force. A lattice. A skeleton of glowing, interwoven lines that flickered like a hologram glimpsed through storm clouds. NASA's instruments tried to model it. Every model failed. Supercomputers choked, and still the structure grew. Each new line connected the three machines more tightly, descending into the mantle, rising into the void, looping around the platform, a completed network, a seamless interface. The activation column pulsed again. Something deep within Earth answered. The buried node glowed brighter. Then something horrifying happened. The Pacific Trench, already opened by the rising node, began to widen. Slowly at first, then faster, then violently, not tearing rock, not collapsing, reconfiguring. Stone bent like soft metal. Basalt layers twisted into spirals. The seabed rearranged itself in patterns that matched the fractal lines on the node's hull. Earth wasn't being destroyed. Earth was being rewritten. The construct descended further. The mantle node rose higher. The platform pulsed with blinding brilliance, and then the final alignment began. The activation lattice fully linked, forming a single glowing core at its heart, a rotating sphere of light, crackling with impossible energy, a sun born inside a machine. The sphere pulsed once, twice, 3 times. Earth answered, with a resonance so powerful that mountains quivered, seas lifted, and the mantle itself vibrated like a struck bell. This wasn't a weapon. This wasn't communication. This was integration. Earth was becoming part of the machine, a host, a node, a foundation, and every instrument agreed. The activation sequence was entering its final phase. The construct rotated into its last position. The buried node locked into place. The platform flared with a halo brighter than any sunrise. All 3 machines faced Earth's mantle, toward the chamber now exposed beneath the Pacific, toward the ancient structure buried for eons, and in a final terrible moment of clarity scientists understood. The thing rising from Earth was not the machine. Earth was the machine, and now the upper components were preparing to wake the core. The activation didn't stabilize the way anyone expected. Instead of calming, the newly awakened superstructure seemed to grow more intense, its pulses rising, its geometry shifting, its resonance deepening until reality itself began to feel thinner around it. The construct above Earth unfolded an additional layer of its hull, a colossal ring rotating around its center like an accretion disk made of black alloy. Every rotation sent ripples of gravitational interference toward Earth, bending the upper atmosphere into luminous arcs of blue-white plasma. The buried node responded from below. Its massive iris, still glowing from the ascent through the ocean, expanded further. The heat signature in the water above it spiked. The entire Pacific basin felt like it had entered the influence of a second sun, not one that burned, but one that pulled, shaping the ocean into long, spiraling currents that defied wind and tide. Airplanes rerouted, ships fled. The world's meteorological systems panicked as impossible weather patterns bloomed in the Pacific sky. But the platform at Earth's orbital midpoint, the once dormant outpost, the long-forgotten node, remained perfectly centered between the 2 giants. 3i Atlas, embedded like a key inside the platform's core, trembled with rising internal light. That hollow center was filling with energy. The buried node answered, sending up another surge through the atmosphere, a towering column of light that linked Earth to the sky to orbit, orbit to the construct. And something began moving through that column. Not matter, not plasma, not energy in any form known to physics. A pattern, a coded rhythm of shifting geometry, flickering across the beam like a language, not spoken, not digital, dimensional. The construct's upper rings accelerated, glowing red-hot with frictionless rotation. Space around them warped, stretching and compressing in rhythmic pulses. Stars behind the rings blurred into spirals of soft light. The construct was not just awake. It was aligning with something beyond visual space. The platform vibrated in response. The buried node hummed with rising resonance. Then, without warning, the entire structure spanning Earth, sky, and void shifted into a new configuration, like a colossal machine rotating into its final position. The axis of alignment changed. It no longer pointed down into the Pacific. It no longer pointed at Earth at all. It pointed past Earth, toward a distant point in the galactic plane, a target, a direction, a destination. Every telescope caught the moment the construct fired its first true pulse, not a scan, not a handshake, a beam. A razor-thin lance of white gold energy leapt from the construct's aperture and carved across the sky in a straight line so perfect it looked like someone had drawn it with a ruler across the stars. The beam continued outward, past the Moon, past Mars, past the outer planets, travelling faster than light without actually moving faster than light. It didn't traverse space, it pierced it. The buried node answered the beam with a pulse of its own, an upward surge, a blast of harmonic resonance that detonated the upper atmosphere into rings of shimmering colour. Shockwaves raced across the sky. Auroras exploded over the equator like curtains of liquid fire. And then, 3i Atlas screamed, not audibly, not in sound, in light. Its crystalline core reached saturation, flaring with a brilliance that momentarily blinded every sensor in Earth orbit. When the glow faded, its structure had changed. Where there had once been armour, now there were openings. Where there had been metal, now there were channels. Its body looked hollow, like a vessel that had emptied itself, because it had. 3i Atlas had transferred everything inside it into the platform, a final offering. The construct pulsed again, this time not outward, but directly toward Earth. The buried node answered. The continental plates hummed, the trench glowed, the ocean split. What came next froze every mind watching. The buried node began to ascend again, not stopping in the atmosphere this time. It rose into orbit, into space. Toward the platform it was always meant to join. The water spiraled downward behind it, crashing into the abyss like a collapsing sky. Rain hammered the ocean with apocalyptic intensity. Lightning cracked in 1,000 places at once. But the node didn't slow. It climbed through the ionosphere, shedding droplets of ocean steam like glowing mist. It reached the platform opened, the node slid into its underside with a perfect mechanical precision, a puzzle piece returning home. The platform brightened, its rings tightened, its core exploded with light, and then it stopped. Everything stopped. The construct, the platform, the buried node, even Earth's magnetic tremors, absolute perfect stillness. Then a single, final pulse. Not a call, not a request, not a greeting, a signal, sent directly into the beam aimed at the distant galactic plane. And something out there answered back. It wasn't faint, it wasn't delayed, it wasn't distant, it was immediate. The instrument panels saturated, the starfield blurred, space vibrated. A voice, not words, not language, a presence, returned the signal. The construct shifted. The platform roared. Earth trembled. The beam widened into a tunnel of swirling light. A corridor, a passage, a gateway. The superstructure was not waking up. It was opening, and whatever it was opening to was already coming through. The system's awakening didn't unleash chaos. Not yet. Instead, everything became impossibly still, a calm so absolute it felt engineered. The wind died over the Pacific. Waves flattened. Storms stalled mid-rotation like paused animations. The ionosphere shimmered in a quiet silver glow. Earth was holding its breath. Above the planet, the 3 titanic structures, the descending construct, the orbital platform, the rising mantle node, hung in a perfect alignment, connected by pillars of shimmering energy that pulsed like arteries. Then the light shifted, not brighter, not darker, more focused. The energy funnel between Earth and orbit narrowed into a single, needle-thin column piercing the sky like a drill of pure resonance. And the buried node reacted instantly, its outer plates peeling apart, revealing an inner chamber rotating with slow, celestial precision. It wasn't trying to escape Earth. It was exposing something inside itself, something it had carried in silence for eons, a sphere, perfect, metallic, engraved with the same fractal geometry that laced the entire network. It rose from the node's core like a heart lifted from a chest. Every instrument on Earth shorted for a heartbeat. Radars died. Satellites went blind. Seismographs flatlined. And in that blackout, the sphere drifted upward, gravity bending around it, water parting beneath it, clouds spiraling aside like respectful curtains. The mantle node began ascending with renewed strength, pushing the ocean outward in a perfect cylindrical wall. The trench became a hollow throat, the planet became a cradle, and the construct above extended its tendrils again. This time toward the sphere, not to seize it, to receive it. The orbital platform spun faster, its plates locking, shifting, aligning until their edges glowed like the rim of an ancient cosmic engine. 3i Atlas vibrated so violently that its surface began shedding pieces, not damage but panels peeling away like petals. The object was transforming. It was no longer a courier, it was a key, reconfiguring for one final function. The buried node released the sphere. The construct lowered a circular aperture. The platform's core pulsed with a rising harmonic. All three aligned around the sphere, forming a triad, like three giant fingers gently holding a world. The air above Earth cracked with a thunderless shock. A ripple tore through the magnetosphere. Auroras spiraled like hurricane arms. Radio stations worldwide buzzed with static that sang in harmonic chords. The sphere began to glow, not white, not blue, an impossible colour, a shimmering mixture of silver and violet shifting like fluid inside a crystal. Then its surface rippled. A pulse radiated outward, a wave of pure information, not binary, not analog, not electromagnetic, something else, something deeper, something that bypassed every instrument and went straight into the Earth itself. The planet answered with a rumble so deep it shook the marrow of mountains. The buried node brightened. The platform intensified. The construct roared with gravitational resonance. The sphere was the core of the system, a memory unit, a seed, a command archive, and it had just awakened. The constructs above and below responded as if receiving their instructions after millions of years of sleep. The mantle node retracted its inner plates, creating space in itself in Earth, in the energy funnel. The platform began siphoning energy from the funnel, glowing hotter, brighter. The construct shifted into a new configuration, flat, broad, towering, like an antenna turned toward a distant star. Then everything accelerated. The sphere emitted a sudden burst of radiant data, so vast, so dense, that for a moment all skyward satellites shone like stars as the data washed through them. The energy funnel tightened even more, becoming a cable of light linking mantle to orbit, orbit to void, void to the construct. The buried node shook the entire Pacific plate, sending harmonic tremors across continents. Cities felt it. Skyscrapers hummed. Oceans pulsed. Animals panicked. Humanity heard it in their bones. The triad around the sphere pulsed in unison. Three great machines synchronizing their heartbeats. Then a knife edge of light sheared down the funnel and slammed into the mantle node. The node responded by rotating its entire structure, massive alloy plates shifting with an elegance no machine that size should have. Its core exposed fully, revealing a spiderweb of fractal supports and an opening. A deep, yawning shaft, the sphere, drifted toward it, drawn by a force deeper than gravity. The construct widened its aperture. The platform blazed like a star forged from machinery. 3i Atlas extended its final spines, and Earth, ancient, living Earth, opened its mantle node like a mechanical womb long overdue for rebirth. The sphere descended into the node. The shaft lit up. The ocean trembled. The crust flexed. The funnel shrieked with harmonic resonance. The sphere slid into place. A click, a pulse, a silence. Then, a bloom of light exploded from within the node so violently that the sky flashed white across half the world. The buried structure sent a beam upward. The platform sent a beam downward. 3i Atlas served as a conduit between them. The construct locked the beams into a singular line, and the entire system fused into one, a superstructure of Earth, orbit, sky, and void. Something had just been activated that predated human civilization, predated human evolution, predated continents, a machine older than Earth's oceans, its purpose, unknown, its awakening, inevitable. And now that all three pieces were finally assembled, it had only one task left to complete. The system did not stay quiet for long. The moment the three titanic constructs synchronized, one buried in Earth, one anchored in orbit, one descending from the void, a second gravitational shockwave rolled outward, stronger than the first. Not destructive, not explosive, but directive, a shaped engineered ripple that spread through space with perfect symmetry. It didn't move randomly, it pointed, straight toward the galactic plane. Every observatory watched the stars distort again as the ripple crossed them, bending their light in geometrically perfect arcs, mapping their positions in real time as if the sky itself were being scanned. Something across the galaxy was receiving the signal, and something out there answered. Not a pulse this time, a chorus. Dozens of faint signals flickered through the deep space network, then hundreds, each one shaped with the same fractal signature as the construct above Earth. The returning entity wasn't alone. It was one member of a constellation, a network scattered across the Milky Way, dormant nodes waiting for a central beacon. An Earth's construct, platform, courier, buried core, had just reactivated that beacon. The sky lit up with responses, some faint, some strong, some distant beyond comprehension. A web older than humanity was waking. The orbital platform brightened again. Its spinning disk slowed, smoothed, locked into position like a massive celestial gear. Then the buried node emitted a pulse so powerful it rattled the oceans, a deep, rising tone that resonated in every square inch of the planet. Not sound, not seismic force, a signal, broadcast through the planet itself, using Earth as the antenna. The planet groaned, not in pain, in participation. A column of white-blue energy surged upward from the rising node, spiraling around the platform like a double helix of lightning. The construct above answered by releasing a wave of refracted starlight that cascaded downward, merging into the spiral until the entire structure glowed like a pillar connecting space to Earth. Then, the spiral expanded. It widened into a cone. The cone flattened into a disk. The disk sharpened into a plane. A sheet of energy stretched outward from the platform, flat, impossibly large, nearly invisible except for the faint refraction of stars passing behind it. It spread across the sky until it eclipsed half of Earth's view of space. A shield? A gate? A projection? NASA didn't know. But the buried node answered by opening its core. A hollow, glowing geometry. Circles within circles, patterns within patterns, spiraled outward like a flower blooming beneath the crust. The beam from the construct plunged into that geometry and locked into place. The system had completed its alignment. Every component hummed in sync. Then the impossible began. The disk of energy above Earth rippled, first gently, then violently, before splitting open in a silent, gaping fissure. It wasn't a tear in space, it was a window, a view into something else, not stars, not darkness. A lattice, endless, three-dimensional, shifting, like seeing the circuitry of the universe itself. The window widened. Energy roared inward, not outward. The machine wasn't projecting, it was receiving. The platform braced, 3-eye atlas flared. The buried node vibrated with a tone so deep it rattled the bones of every living creature. Then a structure passed through the window, small at first, no larger than 3-eye atlas, then larger, then monstrous. Not a ship, not a construct. A frame, a skeletal architecture made of dark alloy and hollow geometry, like scaffolding for something yet to be built. It rotated once, then anchored itself beside the main construct as though returning home. More frames followed, some small, some continent-sized, not random, not chaotic. Each one slid through the window with mechanical certainty, taking positions around the platform like pieces of a colossal puzzle, assembling themselves around Earth. The sky darkened with machines, dozens, scores, hundreds, each one humming with the same harmonic resonance, each one following the pulses from the buried node. Earth was surrounded, but nothing attacked, Nothing scanned humanity. Nothing aimed for cities or satellites. Every construct focused solely on the node, the platform, the alignment beam, as if humanity didn't exist, as if humans were ants beneath a cathedral being rebuilt. Then the platform's center ignited. A blinding vertical ribbon of light shot upward through the window, striking the heart of the void lattice with a brilliance that dwarfed the sun. The incoming frames reacted. They arranged, they repositioned. The window flared wider. Stars disappeared behind it. Earth looked into a network that didn't belong to this galaxy. Then the buried node pulsed once more, the largest pulse yet, and everything froze. Every construct stopped. Every beam halted. Every vibration ceased. Silence. For several seconds the world felt disconnected from reality. Then, a deep resonant voice, not a sound, not language, a concept, broadcast across every frequency simultaneously. Initialization complete. The window collapsed into a line. The line collapsed into a point. The point vanished. All the incoming frames, all the constructs, all the machinery stopped glowing. They weren't dead. They were installed, fixed into place around Earth like giant brackets of a cosmic mechanism. The platform dimmed to a quiet silver. The buried node descended halfway back into the ocean, still glowing but gentle now. 3i Atlas retracted its ribs and sealed its hull, returning to a silent, dormant shape. The entire machine, this ancient multi-component system, had finished its task. Lights blinked once across every frame, a synchronized acknowledgement. Then a final message resonated across the Earth, through the mantle, into orbit, and back into space. Standby mode engaged, awaiting next arrival. And then the constructs went still. The buried node fell silent. The platform ceased rotating. 3i Atlas became dark again. Earth had been chosen as one node in an incomprehensibly ancient network, a receiver, a gateway, a relay. And now the machine waited, silent, dormant, listening, for whatever comes next. And humanity finally understood. 3i Atlas was never observing us. It was preparing us, preparing Earth for something that hasn't arrived yet.